Ladies and gentlemen, on this 3rd day of June, I would really wish to give my view in respect of the death of George Floyd in America, an occurrence that has really shocked the entire world. And in doing this, I would want first to recall my youthful days then in the 90s when, the American pop culture was the in thing. I cannot forget, and even as I reminisce about the American music scene, the Michael Jacksons of this world, we marveled about these great characters. I cannot forget the sports scene. Those were the days of Michael Air Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, and I must confess that these Americans really put this nation, the great nation of the Americas, in the world map, so that as a young person, part of my dream and my generation was to be associated with the United States, a country that, we saw as a mirror of the make-believe, a nation of opportunity, a nation that represented everything democracy, everything rule of law, everything, rights and equality. So that if I recall that scene and the place where we are today in the year 2020, I would say with conviction that America, you must wake up. I've also had an opportunity to somehow look at the history of America, and I realized that some of its great leaders and founders, the likes of Jefferson, had opportunity to address his mind as early as 1778 on the issue of racism vis-a-vis slavery, because as you will realize, these two things are like blood brothers. Before you conceive slavery in your mind, you must also be a person that subscribe to the notion of racism. And within that context, Thomas Jefferson interrogated this issue in his mind, the issue of slavery, and he was amongst the persons who, even then, and remember I'm talking of around 250 years ago, felt and in fact put it on paper that you cannot have a nation where a significant segment of its people feel secluded, a significant segment of its people feel, or rather are taken as though they are not human beings. And it would also be important to note that he actually predicted that if that notion, if those thoughts that he had then were not addressed, then a time would come when the same would result in chaos in the country. It will result in the fragmentation of the United States of America. And true to the words of Thomas Jefferson, you will realize that in the 1860s, America experienced the Great Civil War, which pitted the unitaries against those who were for the Union against those who were for the Confederation. And this was a battle that, according to historical records, led America to lose around 650,000 soldiers. Of course, in the end of the day, the Confederates succeeded, and one of the core pillars of they that fought under the banner of the Confederates was the fact that slave trade, or rather slavery, had to be exterminated. And I'm saying this is important because there is a sense in which slavery and racism run hand, they run together. Like I said, they are blood brothers, so that in a scenario where 250 years ago Thomas Jefferson could envision such a critical way in which society has to be programmed, in a scenario where we are saying that the Confederalists then under the then President Lincoln could envision that a society must be programmed in a fashion in which there is equality, in which equality of all its citizens are appreciated. It becomes clear that 250 years down the line, and also 150 years down the line after the victory of the Confederates, that it is then possible that someone can be killed in the United States of America simply by virtue of the race of that individual. I think the United States of America must relook itself. I mean, the policymakers in America must relook and examine their minds and, you know, how the system in this country operates. It would seem that racism is institutionalized in America, and I'm talking over this as a Kenyan, especially bearing in mind that American foreign policy has, as it were, all along propagated the notion of the exportation of American ideals worldwide, and we have grown to know that American ideals, amongst others, envision democracy. American ideals envision the rule of law. American ideals envision human rights. So that in a scenario where in the year 2020, an innocent citizen, an innocent American can be killed by an enforcer of the law and witnessed by, you know, 4 of his colleagues simply because of his race. I think that cannot be stomached at all. And under such circumstances, what should boggle the mind of the American policymakers, as it were, is that then what would be the locus? How would America then have that moral standing with which you will address other nations worldwide, nations that ordinarily flout human rights, nations that ordinarily flout the general provisions as to the rule of law? Yeah. How would America have that moral ground? How will you then purport to be exporting your ideals on democracy and the rule of law outside? I want to remind America today that the part of the reasons as to why you are a superpower is because of your ideals. It is not so much even about the military strength of America, though that is also important, but the core reason why the American ideals spread, or why the idea of America as a superpower spread so fast throughout the world was because of your ideals infused so easily in the cultures of different nations throughout the world, throughout Africa, throughout Asia, so that the moment the operations in America are such that it would seem that you do not believe in these basic ideals, then I want to tell you, America, that that would then be the beginning of the erosion of the very foundation as to why America became a superpower in the first place. I want to say that America must wake up. Thank you.